Hello everybody and welcome to SFF180. Your host here, Thomas, as always, with a rather late in the day Mailbag Monday for the 30th. I hope you're all doing reasonably well as can be expected in these times. I got home very late from my trip last night, so that is why I'm sorry to say there's been no Monday video flood. I really tried even to get this recorded last night, and I'm like, no, it's 1 in the morning, I just can't. So here it is now, and look forward to new videos just during the week. I'm gonna do it that way. Also, pay attention because Wednesday is coming up, and that will be the day that we announce the 3rd BookTube SFF Awards. That's right, it's gonna be a lot of fun, so get ready for that. And also, in case you weren't aware, tomorrow is the last day that you can register, either attending or supporting, for Worldcon 75 this year in Helsinki. It's the last day that you can register and be able to nominate in the Hugos this time, unless you were already registered for Mid-Americon last year, in which case it carries over. So go ahead and visit Worldcon 75. You can Google up their site and find out information on that if you want to participate. And apart from that, we've got a big day today, so I'm going to get right into it. Part of my trip, yes, my trip did take me back to Austin, and I swung back by my neighbors and visited them, where I used to live, to find out that some packages were still being sent to my old address, even after I thought that I had sent everybody my correct updated address, and so I had brought a ton of those home. So what I have now are last week everything that came here plus at least 2 weeks worth of stuff that was going to my old address, which means I've just counted 16 packages today in the mailbag. So you've got a big one, and we're not going to waste any more time getting around to it, shall we? Let's see what's in these books. And this tells me it comes from Macmillan. And we're getting off to a good start this week. We have The Arc for the Collapsing Empire from John Scalzi. This comes out from Tor in hardcover on March 21st. It is the first book in a brand new universe of his, no longer the Old Man's War universe. This one, it says, The Collapsing Empire, being the first book released under his new contract. Our universe is ruled by physics, and faster-than-light travel is not possible until the discovery of the Flow, an extra-dimensional field we can access at certain points in space-time that transport us to other worlds around other stars. Humanity flows away from Earth into space and, in time, forgets our homeworld and creates a new empire, the Interdependency, whose ethos requires that no one human outpost can survive without the others. It's a hedge against interstellar war and a system of control for the rulers of the empire. The flow is eternal, but it is not static. Just as a river changes course, the flow changes as well, cutting off worlds from the rest of humanity. When it's discovered that the flow is moving, possibly cutting off all human worlds from faster-than-light travel forever, 3 individuals, a scientist, a starship captain, and the Empress of the Interdependency, are in a race against time to discover what, if anything, can be salvaged from an interstellar empire on the brink of collapse. It's a very interesting premise, and it sounds like it could be the sort of thing that draws metaphors to much that's going on in our real lives. But new from John Scalzi comes out March the 21st from Tor. Well, okay then. I keep seeing posts about this all the time on Twitter, and now we have a collected version. This is Tremontaine, which appears to be a shared world anthology. It's sort of masterminded by Ellen Kushner. This comes out May the 2nd, this Saga edition. And let's see, it's some of the names involved include Alea Dawn Johnson, Melinda Lowe, Joel Erfner, Patty Bryant, Racheline Maltese, and Paul Whitcover. So some names I know and some other names that I don't know just yet. But let's see, I can hold this right here to read it, I think. In a city where sharp swords cut deep and sharp wit cuts even deeper, 2 strangers come to town. One is a brash young spy from across the sea, exiled from her bright home where jaguars stalk the forests. Iskab Balam is sure she can take on these simple foreigners who rely on her trader family to import their precious chocolate. The other is a farm girl who sells turnips in the market and also happens to be a math genius. When a raffish scholar takes her under his wing, Micah finds a place at the university, and she doesn't care if they all think she's a boy as long as they let her study numbers. Brooding over them all is Diane, Duchess of Tremontaine, a beautiful, clever woman with a secret that must be kept hidden at all costs. And when Iskob's adventures and Micah's research threaten to destroy all she has built, Diane moves her pieces into play. Okay, and it's a return to the glittering world of Riverside, it says, with a team of 6 brilliant writers. So this is the universe, this is the Swords Point universe. If you are an Ellen Kushner fan, you will be familiar with those novels. And let's see, and this apparently serves as a prequel to Swords Point and subsequent books. So, these are already out in serialized form from Serial Box Publishing, but the bind-up edition comes out from Saga Press on May the 2nd. And that's a chunky edition too, like almost 700 pages. Okay, we have one now from Hachette, probably an Orbit's title. And it is! This is a new novel by Mur Lafferty. It's called Six Wakes. This is a space opera murder mystery, as it were. And, you know, I'm really interested in this one, despite the fact that I am emphatically not a fan of her urban fantasy series, The Shambling World, those books. But this looks like she's steering her writing on a different course, and seems pretty intriguing. I think this is either out now or out imminently from Orbit, and it basically says, in the depths of space, it's pretty normal to wake up in a cloning vat. The streaks of blood, however, are not so normal. Maria Arena has been cloned before. Usually when she awakens as a new clone, her first memory is of how she died. This time she has no idea. Her memories are incomplete. And Maria isn't the only one to have died recently. Basically, these characters wake up on a spacecraft and realize that murders have been committed. And essentially these are, and I think that these are clones of the murdered crew, who now have to solve the crime and find out who murdered their originals, as it were. Six Wakes seems pretty intriguing concept. Anyway, let me know in the comments. Next up is an arc from Pyre, Prometheus Books, and this is continuing their annual Nebula Award Showcase anthology series. This year it's edited by Julie Cherneda, the 2017 edition, and it is basically all of the books that were among recent Nebula winners, as well as shortlisted titles, nominees. And I will just look to see what is in here. Yeah, all short story nominees, all of them, as well as the winner, Hungry Daughters of Starving Mothers by Alyssa Wong, the Rising Award winner for Best Short Poem, an excerpt from Uprooted, which won Best Novel, as well as excerpts from the other, all of the other Best Novel nominees. Oh, and then it has some C.J. Cherry material in here. An article by Betsy Walheim, a profile of C.J. Cherry, and then it has excerpts of 2 of her older books, Bride of Chinur and Foreigner, because C.J. Cherry was the Grand Master last year. So, the Nebula Award Showcase anthology from Pyre comes out May the 16th. Okay, this is interesting. It's a box comes from, says Blackstone Audio. Alright, I guess Blackstone Audio is also Blackstone Publishing, because they have sent me a book. And yes, actually this is one that I've been very much looking forward to. This is a book called Feta Morgana. It is a beautifully crafted thrill ride. It says that it's part World War II adventure, part mind-bending science fiction, and part love story that is literally timeless. The authors here are Stephen R. Boyette, which is very exciting to me, because Stephen R. Boyette is not very prolific, but way back in the early 80s, he wrote a much-beloved cult fantasy novel, post-apocalyptic fantasy novel called Ariel, sort of a boy and his unicorn story wandering an apocalyptic American landscape. Sort of vanished for a while, but it was kept alive by, you know, a very, very loyal following, and it was reprinted and revised, and the whole thing sort of revived back in the beginning of this decade, around 2010, 2011 or something, and then a sequel was published, Elegy Beach. And so like Stephen R. Boyette, this fantasy writer who was thought to have amazing promise in the early 80s and then just kind of vanished after a couple of years, is now back in the fold. And Ariel, by the way, you really should hunt that book down. So it shouldn't be hard, because like I said, it came out again, was re-released very recently by Ace Books. But this is now a new novel, a collaboration also with Ken Mitroni, who has written quite a lot of stuff and worked on a lot of film and television, as it were, and done also a lot of comic work. So they've collaborated on this book. At the height of the air war in Europe, Captain Joe Farley and the baseball-loving, wisecracking crew of the B-17 flying fortress Feta Morgana are in the middle of a harrowing bombing mission over East Germany when everything goes sideways. The bombs are still falling and flak is still exploding. all around the 20-ton bomber as it is knocked like a bathtub duck into another world. Suddenly stranded with the final outcasts of a desolated world, Captain Farley navigates a maze of treachery and wonder, and finds a love seemingly decreed by fate as his bomber becomes a pawn in a centuries-old conflict between remnants of advanced but decaying civilizations. Caught amongst these bitter enemies, a vast power that has brought them here for its own purposes, and a terrifying living weapon bent on their destruction, the crew must use every bit of their formidable inventiveness and courage to survive. Climb aboard and hold on tight for this cinematic, meticulously researched adventure that's part Band of Brothers, part James Cameron movie, part Casablanca, and 100% edge-of-the-seat breakout thriller. So it just sounds like pure escapism, and it could be a heap of fun. And this whole kind of, whoops, I'm in another world, sort of the portal fantasy element, as it were, brings to mind another one of Boyette's earlier books. Yeah, very happy to see this, and I'm very curious to know where this story is going to go. But Feta Morgana, it says, comes out from Blackstone Publishing on June the 13th. Okay, quite a week so far, you guys, and another Tor package. Hang on, I was wrong. This one's not a Tor title. This is from Disney, Hyperion, and it appears to be a middle grade, a second volume in the series Finders Keepers. I've not received the first volume of it, but this one is called Rebels of the Lamp, and it involves genies and a bunch of plucky kids saving the world, as it were. And the authors are Michael M.B. Galvin and Peter Speakman. So, middle grade series that I'm not familiar with, but I know some booktubers are very much into middle grade, and perhaps you know something about this sort of thing, this particular series. But if you are a fan, well, this comes out on the 7th of February from Disney Hyperion. Ooh, very pleased to see this. This is called The Book of Etta. The author is Meg Ellison. And this is the sequel to her book, The Book of the Unnamed Midwife, which won the Philip K. Dick Award a few years ago. It was a self-published title, I believe, or a very small press title, but then 47 North picked it up and re-released it. And now we have the sequel, also from 47 North. So I have actually, Meg Ellison herself sent me Unnamed Midwife, and it's somewhere in a box here. But in any event, let's see. Ellison, it says, takes readers deeper into her post-apocalyptic world. As you can see, it's a little St. Louis arch right there. The story continues many years after the midwife delivered her first child to survive birth. The inhabitants of Nowhere continue to struggle with vestiges of the plague that nearly wiped out Earth's population. Women are scarce and childbearing is dangerous, yet desperately necessary for humankind's future. Okay, well, again, sounds very much like the world we're entering right now. Ellison continues to explore themes of female autonomy, reproductive freedom, and self-identification that captivated readers of the Book of the Unnamed Midwife. Okay, Ellison showcases the struggle for equality and acceptance, reminiscent of issues affecting the modern-day LGBTQ community, and envisions a dystopic future where both women's and LGBTQ rights could be lost. Again, we don't have to imagine hard there. Okay, February 21st for the Book of Etta, sequel to the Book of the Unnamed Midwife by Meg Ellison. Okay, here's one that's hand-addressed to me, but looks like it comes from a PR firm that I've worked with before. And here we go again. This is another arc for another bind-up by Saga Press of another serial box series. This is Season 1 of Max Gladstone's Book Burners. And let me see about this. So another shared world serial fantasy. But this one says, actually, January on the cover, so I guess the finished version's already out, or coming out. No, it says on sale date the 10th. So, been out for a few days then. All right, let's see. Sal Brooks, police detective and long-suffering big sister, is used to getting her brother Perry out of tough spots, but this is the first time he's been possessed by a demon. Magic is real. It lurks in ancient books, waiting for the evil or unwary to release it into the world, and Perry's adventures in a rare... and Perry's adventure in rare book collecting, there we are, has taken a demonic turn for the worst. To save him, Sal joins a secret Vatican anti-magic squad, Team 3 of the Societas Librorum Occultorum, dedicated to saving people from the monsters beyond our world, and the humans who try to release those monsters from the books in which they are bound. Team 3's enemies call them the Book Burners. They don't like the name. Okay. All right, then. Well, this is, let's see, who's contributing to this? And Max Gladstone, of course, Margaret Dunlap, Mur Lafferty, and Brian Francis Slattery. So Book Burners available now in bind-up form from Saga Press. And next up, from Simon & Schuster, the children's division, We have another middle grade series, and this is the first volume in a sequel series to something called the Unwanteds. This is now the Unwanteds Quests. And the author is Lisa McMahon. I am not familiar with the Unwanteds, but let's see. Apparently it is high fantasy for kids, full of dragons and high fantasy-ish stuff. Identical twins Pfeiffer and Thisbe Stowe have amazing yet uncontrollable magical abilities. They're naturally more gifted even than their brother, Alex, the head mage of Arteme, could hope to be. But when they accidentally use their magic in the jungle of Arteme to strike down a beloved creature, Alex is furious and threatens to lock them away until they can learn to control their powers. Sounds like it would serve them right. And then, okay, more adventures ensue, but it's a new middle grade fantasy series, Lisa McMahon, and so Unwanteds Quests, Dragon Captives. There you are. Begins on February the 7th from Simon & Schuster. So middle grade fans, gear up for dragony fun. All right, everyone, this is called The Burning World. The author is Isaac Marion, and this is interesting. It's a sequel to Warm Bodies, a new Warm Bodies novel, it says. Warm Bodies, some of you may remember, because it was made into a movie a few years ago, was this sort of like teen romance thing, except like she's a girl and he's a zombie boy, which I thought was an interesting conceit, right? I mean, because there were a few of those happening right around that time, and I'm like, when did necrophilia become the hot, YA ship? But then I guess if you've been romancing vampires, it's essentially the same thing. Okay, well, this comes out February 7th, The Burning World. Being alive is hard, being human is harder, but since his recent recovery from death, R is making progress. He's learning how to read, how to speak, maybe even how to love, and how to be a real boy. I added that part. And the city's undead population is showing signs of life. R can almost imagine a future with Julie, the girl who restarted his heart, building a new world from the ashes of the old one. Aww. And then helicopters appear on the horizon. Someone is coming to restore order, to silence all this noise, to return things to the way they were. The good old days of stability and control and the strong eating the weak. The plague is ancient and ambitious, and the dead were never its only weapon. Okay, then. Well, February 7th, then, The Burning World. So many titles and premises that are metaphors for our life today. Comes out from Atria Books on February the 7th. Okay, moving on. I have what feels like a very heavy, chunky hardcover from Random Penguin. Yes, it is the finished copy of With Blood Upon the Sand. This is by Bradley Ballou. It is the sequel to 12 Kings of Sharakai, which very highly thought of, epic fantasy from last year, and so now I can read them both. No cell sheets can be very awkward because, okay, Book 2 of the Song of the Shattered Sands. Sita, an Ashita, an elite warrior in service to the kings of Sharakai, is learning their secrets even as they send her on covert missions to further their rule. She's already uncovered the dark history of the curse-bound Asirim, but it's only when she bonds with them, chaining them to her will, that she feels their pain as her own. They hunger for release, they demand it, but their chains were forged by the gods themselves and are proving unbreakable. It goes on from there. This appears to be, a very, very exciting high fantasy with an exotic flair. But Of Blood Upon the Sand, I believe, is a February hardcover title from Daw Books. All right, well, this is one that came to my old address. This is new by Kim Harrison, comes out February 7th. And it's a book called The Turn, and it appears to be a prequel novel to a series of hers called The Hollows. I really haven't read Kim Harrison, to be honest with you. Oh, well, I have read some stuff of hers, some fantasy novels of hers under her pseudonym that I don't think she uses anymore. Dawn Cook, I believe, was that pseudonym. Anyway, Trisk and her hated rival Cal have the same goal, save their species from extinction, but death comes in the guise of hope when a genetically modified tomato created to feed the world combines with the government's new tactical virus, providing it an unexpected host and a mode of transport. Plague rises, giving the paranormal species the choice to stay hidden and allow humanity to die, or show themselves in a bid to save the human race. Okay, so a paranormal novel in which tomatoes wipe out the world. I kind of like that. All right, then, under accusations of scientific misconduct, Trisk and Cal flee across a plague-torn United States to convince leaders of the major paranormal species to save their supposedly weaker kin. And I can only imagine that many of them are not down with that idea. But Kim Harrison's The Turn. Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. Literally. Comes February the 7th from Gallery Books. And a new book from Tor. Okay, this is a book called The Skill of Our Hands. Came out on January the 24th. And the authors are Stephen Bruce, whom most of you know, and Skylar White. And this is the sequel to something called The Incrementalist, which I was sent when it came out however many years ago. Did not, unfortunately, get around to reading at the time, but it appears to be that this is a paranormal, or shall I say, urban fantasy / paranormal series. Something to do with secret societies, and maybe characters with superpowers, as it were. But the Incrementalists, it says, are a secret society of 200 people, an unbroken lineage reaching back 40,000 years. They cheat deaths, share lives and memories, and communicate with one another across nations and time. It says, now Phil the Incrementalist, whose personality has stayed stable through more incarnations than anyone else's, has been shot dead. They'll bring him back, but first they need to know what happened. Their investigation will lead down unexpected paths in contemporary Arizona, and bring them up against corruption in high and low places alike. But the key may lay in one of Phil's previous lives, in Kansas in 1859, and the fate of a man named John Brown. Okay then. Skill of Our Hands sounds like it could be read on its own, without having read the first one. But Secret Society of Near Immortals, Solving a Mystery. This, again, out now from Tor Books. And this one, yeah, see, this is one of the ones that went to the old address. Went to the old address. Almost missed it. Ah, and looky loo, it is Crossroads of Canopy, which comes out tomorrow from Tor. Book on my most anticipated list. Not as large a book as I was anticipating, to be honest with you. I've already noticed that it's getting some mixed reviews, but that's okay. But this comes out, this is from Thoraya Dyer, whom I believe, yes, she's a 4-time Aurealis Award-winning author, the Aurealis being Australia's big science fiction award. And it says, at the highest level of a giant forest, 13 kingdoms fit seamlessly together to form the great city of Canopy. 13 goddesses and gods rule this realm and are continuously reincarnated into human bodies. Canopy's position in the sun, however, is not without its dark side. The nation's opulence comes from the labor of slaves. And below its fruitful boughs are 2 other realms, understory and floor, whose deprived citizens yearn for Canopy's splendor. Okay, see, metaphor for the class system. Unar, a determined but destitute young woman, escapes her parents' plot to sell her into slavery by being selected to serve in the garden under the goddess Odblayan. Okay. Fantasy name, so let me just read it slowly. Odblayan. Think I got it. Ruler of growth and fertility. As a gardener, she wishes to become Odblayan's next bodyguard, while also growing sympathetic toward Canopy's slaves. When Odblayan dies, Unar sees her opportunity for glory at the risk of descending into the unknown dangers of understory to look for a newborn god. In its depths, she discovers new forms of magic, lost family connections, and murmurs of a revolution that could cost Unar her chance or grant it by destroying the home she loves. I like the arboreal setting of the whole thing. That, that kind of makes my ears perk up. I'm sick and tired of everything being castles and fortresses and, majestic keeps and all of those, tropes that we're familiar with. Just, redo the set dressing a little bit. I like that concept. But anyway, we'll see. Let me know in the comments, but Crossroads of Canopy is out tomorrow, January 31st from Tor Books. And down to the last 2, you guys. Simon & Schuster package. Let's see. And this is the finished copy of a horror title that I have been fascinated in. I really, really enjoyed doing Halloween. I mean, the fact that I actually got 10 videos in 10 days done was really fun. And it was a nice change, and I think you all seem to enjoy it. Let me know if you'd like me to do it again for this year, because I really, really am thinking about it. It seemed like an awesome way to sort of celebrate the Halloween season. But in any event, The Devil Crept In, which comes out on the 7th of February, is an unconventional and chilling story about a small-town boy as he investigates the mysterious disappearance of his cousin and uncovers a terrifying secret about his town that's been kept hidden for years. Young Jude Brighton has gone missing, and while the search for him is in full swing in the small town of Deer Valley, Oregon, the locals are starting to lose hope. They're well aware that the first 48 hours are critical, and after that the odds usually point to a worst-case scenario. And despite Stevie Clark's youth, he knows that too. He's seen the cop shows. He knows what each ticking moment may mean for Jude, his cousin and best friend. It's just like the stories from years ago of that boy, Max Larson, who was found dead after also disappearing under mysterious circumstances. And then there were the animals, pets gone missing out of yards. For years, the residents of Deer Valley have either murmured about or tried very hard not to talk of these unsolved crimes, or that a killer may still possibly be lurking around their quiet town. Now fear is reborn, and for Stevie, who's determined to find out what really happened to Jude, the awful truth may be too horrifying to imagine. Okay, so right away, I know this sort of thing isn't everybody's jam. You're sort of like, no, not for me. But yeah, February the 7th, The Devil Crept In. Anya Alborn is the author from Gallery Books. And finally, one that went to the old address. This is a new package from Pyre. And this is another one I've been looking forward to, because when I had the arc of this on the mailbag a couple of months ago, you guys responded very well to it. This is a book called Department Zero. Author is Paul Crilly. It's out now, as of January 24th, from Pyre. And let's see, it says, Harry Priest just wants to make sure his ex-wife doesn't take away his visitation rights. And his dead-end job, cleaning up crime scenes for the past 10 years, isn't doing him any favors. But when Harry attends what he thinks is a routine death, he stumbles onto a secret multiverse of alternate realities, all reachable through universe-hopping gates. Policing these worlds is Havelock Graves, the Interstitial Crime Department's top agent for 10 years. When Harry accidentally messes with the ICD crime scene, Graves and his team are demoted as low as they can go, Department Zero. They're recruiting Harry too, because he just might hold the key to saving the universe and getting their old jobs back. To do this, Graves and his team set out to solve the crime that lost them their jobs. A crime that involves a cult planning to hunt down and steal the fabled Spear of Destiny, in order to free, here it comes, the great old one Cthulhu from his endless sleep in the dreamlands. The team will have to fight its way through realities filled with Martian technology and evade mad priests, Harry's favorite kind, in a realm of floating landmasses where magic really exists, and he has to do it all in time to say goodnight to his daughter. So you've got Cthulhu Misa. He sounds like he's just borrowing literally everything and saying, screw it, I'm going to make a big stew of, weird fiction, dark fantasy, and epic fantasy, and science fiction fun. And it's called Department Zero. Paul Crilly is the author, out now from Pyre. And that is what we got, everybody, this week. Full house. Pretty impressive and exciting stack, I have to say. So, you know the drill. Light up those comments. There's a lot to comment on this week. Let me know which of these looks most interesting, exciting to you, which you want to see me prioritize in the review queue. Otherwise, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. That is how the channel keeps going. Don't forget about those Hugo nominations and the Worldcon deadline. And don't forget about Wednesday, when we will be announcing the BookTube SFF Awards once again. So, as usual, thank you guys for joining me, and until I see you next time, happy reading.